"Are you going?" Hernando asked Juancho. As they sat together on a crude bench one Sabbath morning, they attended a small church in a country that didn't want Protestant churches to do missionary work. Nevertheless, the church elder appealed for both young and old to cooperate in giving out faith-building literature that afternoon. When Hernando asked his buddy if he was going, Juancho had a personal battle with himself. In the first place, he told himself he had never given out Christian literature before. Someone might laugh at him, throw rocks at him, or slam the door in his face. No, he didn't believe he would go. "Come on," Hernando urged. "I don't want to go alone. Guess I'll stay home too." "Scared, huh?" chided Juancho. "Who, me?" Hernando countered. The two boys joined in the closing hymn. Then, as they parted at the church door, Juancho grinned and called over his shoulder, "See you at 3 o'clock. When the boys arrived back at the church, they received literature and instruction. "I'll take one side of the street and you take the other," said Hernando as they stepped outside. "That way we'll be through soon. But we're going to give the tracts personally, you know." "Yes," Juancho nodded half-heartedly. "Let's go back inside the church a minute and pray that the Lord will go with us. Then we will begin." On their knees inside the church door, they prayed fervently that they would be protected and that the people would read the papers. They walked in silence to the territory they had chosen, wondering what that afternoon had in store for them. Then they parted, each to his side of the street. Juancho finished in a hurry. He didn't have enough courage to knock on the doors and hand the literature to the people inside. Not this time, anyway. The words just wouldn't come out, so he pushed the literature under the door or through an open window. Sometimes he gave it to the children playing outside. It took only 10 minutes to finish the street, but it seemed like 10 hours. Then he sat on the curb to wait for Hernando. Hernando smiled from ear as he crossed the street to his friend. He had enjoyed talking to the people as he gave them the papers. Most of them were very nice, he told Juancho. Juancho resolved to do a better job of literature distribution the next week. But the next Sabbath afternoon, he found all his resolve melting away. Again, he ran down the street, finished in a hurry, and waited an hour on the curb for Hernando. Each week, he listened with intense interest to the progress his friend was making with a few of the people on this side of the street. And each week, he knew that next time would be different, but it wasn't. Juancho particularly dreaded one house on his side of the street. The doors and windows were always closed. At the top of one of the windows was an opening, but it took some work to reach it. Juancho had to climb to the lower part of the windowsill in order to drop the tract inside. One Sabbath, he jumped up to the windowsill as usual, but as he reached his hand through the opening to drop the tract, a hand had caught his. It held onto his fingers with a great deal of strength. The grip was so tight that his hand hurt and he couldn't get away. His heart beat fast. Tears welled up in his eyes. What would happen now? He wished he hadn't started giving out these papers. Looking up at the window opening, he saw a face looking down at him, a face of a man wearing a priest's collar. Now Juancho was really frightened, but the man smiled kindly and told Juancho that he wanted to talk with him. He said he had tried for several weeks to catch him. As the priest let go of Juancho's hand, he said, "You're sure a good runner, but don't run this time until I have talked to you." Juancho waited outside, and when the priest joined him, he had a request. "Son, I want you to take me to someone who can tell me more about the things I've been reading in those papers. They are very interesting, and I believe they are all true. I want to be sure, though." Juancho thought of all the members of the church who would be the best one to take the priest to. Then he remembered Hernando Cardoza. That's the one, he decided. Together they walked more than a mile outside the town to a dirt floor cabin of Brother Cardoza. There the priest went week after week to study the Bible with this Adventist man. Months later, the church members gathered beside the crystal waters of the mountain stream. An Adventist minister and the priest stepped down into the water. The priest was going to be baptized, praise God. But first he called Juancho to the water's edge. "Thank you," he said, "for being brave enough to share your faith." Juancho just smiled as the minister dipped his new friend under the water. So I guess the moral of the story is you got to step out in faith because you don't know who you're going to save.